Russia just lost its only path to the International Space Station. On November 27, the Soyuz MS-28 crew launched successfully, but seconds after liftoff, their 144-ton service platform collapsed into the flame trench, destroying over 90% of Site 316's critical infrastructure. With repairs projected to take months or even years, how will Russia keep their cosmonauts rotating to the ISS? SpaceX's Crew Dragon has suddenly become their sole lifeline. Let's dive right in. The morning of November 27 started like any other crew rotation mission. Cosmonauts Sergei Ryzhikov and Sergei Mikhayev, along with NASA astronaut Christopher Williams, rode the elevator up Launch Complex 31/6 at Baikonur. The Soyuz 2.1A rocket stood ready, its service platform providing access for final checks. Everything looked nominal, but what the launch team didn't realize was that a critical locking mechanism hadn't fully engaged. At ignition, 900,000 pounds of thrust erupted from the rocket's engines. The Soyuz lifted off flawlessly. Staging, fairing separation, and orbital insertion all performed perfectly. 9 minutes later, MS-28 separated from the upper stage and began its automated rendezvous to the ISS. 3 hours and 7 minutes after launch, the spacecraft docked smoothly to the Razvait module. The crew was safe. The mission was a success. So why is Russia's space program now in crisis? While the rocket climbed toward orbit, something catastrophic was happening on the ground. The 144-ton movable service platform, a massive steel structure designed to give technicians access to the rocket during pre-launch operations, should have rolled back into its protective underground alcove before ignition. This platform normally retracts along steel guide rails and locks into place, shielding it from the acoustic shockwave and 3,000-degree exhaust plume that would otherwise obliterate it. But on this launch, the platform never fully locked. When the rocket's engines ignited, the acoustic energy alone generated forces equivalent to a localized earthquake. The thermal plume, moving at supersonic speeds, slammed into the unsecured structure. Within seconds, the platform's hydraulic pivots sheared. The upper lifting ring tore loose. The entire central truss framework twisted, buckled, and collapsed into the flame trench like a crushed aluminum can. Post-launch inspection teams arrived to find a scene of total destruction. The platform that once stood 3 stories tall was now a compacted mass of twisted steel at the bottom of the trench. More than 90% of the load-bearing structure was either destroyed or warped beyond any possibility of repair. What went wrong? Early assessments point to a procedural lapse, possibly a missing mechanical stopper or incomplete locking sequence, compounded by ongoing maintenance deficiencies that Russia's space program has quietly struggled with for years. Here's where the situation becomes critical. Site 31/6 isn't just another launch pad. It's Russia's only operational facility capable of launching crewed missions to the International Space Station. Unlike SpaceX, which operates multiple launch sites across Texas and Florida, or even China with its expanding Cosmodrome network, Russia has put all its eggs in one basket, and that basket just shattered. Roscosmos immediately issued a statement downplaying the incident, calling the damage routine and claiming spare parts were available for swift repairs. But experts familiar with the platform's complexity tell a different story. This isn't a simple mechanical fix. The service platform integrates hydraulics, heavy steel framing, service conduits, electrical systems, and precision alignment rails. Manufacturing a replacement under normal conditions has historically taken Russia up to 2 years. Even if they prioritize repairs using salvaged components, realistic estimates put the timeline at several months minimum. What does this mean for Russia's space program? Every single crew rotation mission is now grounded indefinitely. There's no backup pad, no alternative launch site, no quick workaround. For the first time since Yuri Gagarin's historic flight in 1961, Russia cannot independently send its own cosmonauts to space. The irony is almost painful. Just a few years ago, Russia mocked SpaceX's early failures, with Dmitry Rogozin famously suggesting NASA use trampolines to reach the ISS after Russia threatened to cut off Soyuz access. Now SpaceX's Crew Dragon has become Russia's only option for getting cosmonauts to and from the station. This dependency reverses decades of space politics. Since the Space Shuttle's retirement in 2011, NASA paid Russia up to $90 million per seat on Soyuz spacecraft, giving Roscosmos both revenue and geopolitical leverage. SpaceX's Crew Dragon broke that monopoly in 2020, but Russia still maintained its own independent access to orbit. Not anymore. Until Site 31/6 is restored, every Russian cosmonaut flying to the ISS will be riding in an American spacecraft, launched from American soil, operated by a private American company. The collaboration isn't new. NASA and Roscosmos have maintained seat swap agreements even after Crew Dragon came online. But the power dynamic has fundamentally shifted. Russia is no longer negotiating from a position of capability. They're negotiating from necessity. The Crew situation dominates headlines, but there's another problem brewing. The Progress MS-33 cargo spacecraft was scheduled to launch from Site 31/6 on December 19th, carrying supplies, propellant, and experiments to the ISS. That launch now faces indefinite delay. Why does that matter? Because Progress missions do more than deliver cargo. They provide critical reboost operations. The ISS orbits at approximately 400 kilometers altitude, where atmospheric drag, though minimal, still exists. Over time, this drag causes orbital decay. The station slowly loses altitude. Without periodic reboosts, the ISS would eventually fall from orbit. Progress spacecraft dock to the station and fire their thrusters every few months to counteract this decay, maintaining the station's operational altitude. If Progress flights are delayed for an extended period, the ISS could face altitude management problems. SpaceX's Dragon and Northrop Grumman's Cygnus spacecraft can provide some reboost capability, but they weren't designed as primary reboost vehicles. Dragon has demonstrated the ability in recent missions, but it requires specific configurations and flight profiles. Can the ISS survive without Russian cargo flights? Probably, but it adds complexity and risk to station operations at a time when the program is already navigating geopolitical tensions and aging infrastructure. This incident exposes vulnerabilities that extend beyond one damaged launch pad. Russia's space infrastructure has been deteriorating for years, with underfunding, brain drain, and sanctions limiting modernization efforts. The Soyuz system itself, while remarkably reliable, is based on 1960s technology with incremental upgrades. The launch facilities at Baikonur, leased from Kazakhstan, date back to the Soviet era and show their age. Meanwhile, SpaceX is scaling up production at an unprecedented pace. Starship development continues aggressively, with Flight 12 targeted for early next year. The company is now authorized to launch 145 Starship missions annually across 3 sites, more than the entire global launch industry combined just a decade ago. China is rapidly expanding its space capabilities with new crew vehicles and lunar ambitions. Even smaller players like India and Japan are advancing their human spaceflight programs. Russia's dependence on SpaceX isn't temporary. It's a preview of a shifting space order. Without significant investment in infrastructure modernization, Russia risks becoming a secondary player in an arena it once dominated. The collapsed platform at Site 31/6 isn't just structural failure. It's symbolic of a space program struggling to maintain relevance in a new era of commercial spaceflight and international competition. So here's where we stand. A successful launch just became one of the most consequential failures in modern spaceflight history. Russia's cosmonauts reached the ISS safely, but their country's independent access to space now hangs in the balance. Site 31/6 sites damaged and silent. The repairs could take months. A full replacement could stretch into years. Until then, every Russian heading to orbit will depend on an American company that didn't even exist when the ISS was built. This isn't just about one collapsed platform or delayed missions. It's about the fundamental restructuring of space power. For 6 decades, Russia maintained continuous, independent human spaceflight capability through the Soviet collapse, through economic crises, through international tensions. That streak just ended in a matter of seconds. The question now isn't if Russia will recover, but how long it will take and what the space landscape will look like when they do. SpaceX continues ramping up Starship production. China expands its space station. Commercial spaceflight accelerates. The industry isn't waiting. This moment will be remembered as a turning point, when the old guard of spaceflight confronted the harsh reality of aging infrastructure, and when dependence replaced dominance. What do you think Russia's next move should be? Drop your thoughts in the comments below. If you found this analysis valuable, hit that like button and share this video with anyone interested in space. And don't forget to subscribe to Space Update 24 Hours and turn on notifications so you never miss critical updates like this. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.